She didn't burst through fashion's doors with a roar. She stepped in quietly, chin lifted, eyes steady, walk soft but unshakable. There was no grand entrance, no orchestrated drama, just Liu Wen as she was, grounded, graceful, and unapologetically herself, in an industry that had long idolized a narrow ideal of beauty, often Eurocentric, often exclusionary. Her presence was a quiet revolution, not because she set out to be one, but because her very existence in those spaces challenged the unspoken rules. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. Her presence spoke volumes. Liu Wen wasn't the first East Asian model to dream of a place on the international stage, but she was the first to break through in such a significant, lasting way. Her debut in major campaigns and runways didn't just make headlines, it made history. She became the first East Asian model to walk in the Victoria's Secret fashion show, a moment that marked a shift in what global beauty could look like. Then came Estée Lauder, making her the brand's first Chinese spokesperson, a move that not only diversified its image, but also sent a powerful message to millions of young women around the world. And then, perhaps the most symbolic milestone of all, the cover of American Vogue. Not tucked inside the pages, not featured in a supporting editorial role, on the cover, shoulder to shoulder with the supermodel elite. Liu Wen didn't just earn a seat at the table. She helped redefine who gets invited to it in the first place. Yet, if you ask her, she was never out to break barriers. "I never thought I was special," she once said. "I just worked hard." That's Liu. Understated, humble, and entirely unwilling to believe the hype. Her quiet confidence is her signature. She didn't chase fame, she didn't seek validation, she simply did her job, did it well, and let her work speak for itself. And in doing so, she became iconic in the most organic way, not by demanding attention, but by commanding respect. This is the story of a model who didn't kick the door open, she held it for the girls who were told their eyes were too small, for those who were told their features were too different, for everyone who never saw themselves reflected in the glossy pages of magazines or on the screens of global campaigns. Liu Wen's journey is a reminder that sometimes change doesn't come with noise. Sometimes it comes with grace, determination, and quiet, persistent presence. This is the story of Liu Wen. Not just a model, but a movement. Liu Wen was born on January 27, 1988, in Yangzhou, a city nestled in the heart of Hunan Province, China. It was a quiet, unassuming place, far removed from the flashing lights of Paris, Milan, or New York. Fashion was not a part of her world growing up. Her childhood was defined more by simplicity than spectacle. She lived in a modest home, surrounded by the everyday rhythms of school, family, and community. There were no dreams of runways or magazine covers. Instead, she was just a girl raised on rice porridge, neatly pressed school uniforms, and the constant, quiet encouragement of a mother who envisioned a bigger future for her daughter. That vision took a surprising shape. Liu's mother, concerned about her daughter's posture, encouraged her to explore modeling, not as a glamorous career path, but as a corrective exercise. At 17, Liu entered the New Silk Road World Model Contest, one of China's most prestigious modeling competitions. She didn't win, but she didn't need to. Her unique look and quiet confidence stood out, earning her enough recognition to get her foot in the door of an industry that, until then, hadn't quite known what to make of someone like her. From there, Liu began to pick up small gigs, catalog shoots, local runway jobs, and commercial work. The jobs weren't luxurious, but they were steady. Her beauty defied easy categorization. She was tall, with a subtle strength in her presence, soft cheekbones, wide-set eyes, and an enigmatic expression that always seemed to hint at something unspoken. Even among Chinese models, she looked different, and that difference is exactly what made her unforgettable. Then came the breakthrough. In 2007, Liu walked in Paris Fashion Week, a monumental step for any model, but particularly for one from China, where representation on international stages was still sparse. By 2008, she had become a fixture on the global runways, modeling for iconic fashion houses like Chanel, Jean Paul Gaultier, and Hermès. Her booking schedule became relentless. She wasn't a background figure or an afterthought. She was commanding attention. She was the moment. In 2009, Liu achieved what was once unthinkable. She became the first Chinese model to be signed by Estée Lauder, one of the most recognized beauty brands in the world. In an industry that had long leaned toward Eurocentric ideals of beauty, Her signing marked a significant shift. For Liu, it may have felt like just another job, another step in a steadily climbing career, but for millions of Chinese women and girls, it was something far more profound. It was the first time they saw someone who looked like them not just on a billboard, but as the face of a global brand. Liu Wen didn't just walk the runway, she walked through barriers. When Liu Wen stepped onto the Victoria's Secret runway in 2009, she didn't smile big, she didn't blow kisses, she didn't do the flirty twirls or exaggerated waves that had come to define the show's signature style. Instead, she just walked, head high, eyes forward, cool, poised, a little detached. It was the same confident, unbothered walk that had taken her through countless fashion shows before. But this one was different. This time, history was being made. Liu Wen became the first East Asian model to ever walk the Victoria's Secret fashion show. It was a landmark moment, though at the time, few people in the room seemed to notice. Liu herself later admitted she had no idea the significance of what she had just done. There were no fireworks, no backstage announcement, no media frenzy waiting to celebrate the moment. She was simply one girl, in high heels and angel wings, doing her job. But for the millions watching, especially viewers across China and the greater Asian diaspora, it wasn't just another model strutting down the runway. It was a powerful, long overdue breakthrough. Suddenly, Liu Wen wasn't just a model. She was a symbol. A quiet, elegant stand-in for cultural pride, for visibility, for all the possibilities that come when you see someone who looks like you break into a space where few have ever been allowed. With that visibility came pressure. Her success wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to a larger conversation about race, beauty standards, and representation in global fashion. And while Liu wore that symbolic crown with the grace and dignity that came to define her, it was never something she had sought out. She was still the same girl from Yangzhou, Hunan, a small-town teenager who had once entered a local modeling contest simply to earn a computer. Now she was on one of the world's most watched stages, quietly shattering barriers just by being there. And people noticed. The industry couldn't get enough of her. Neither could the public. She returned to the Victoria's Secret runway the following year, and the year after that. Her appearances became annual highlights, and her fan base expanded rapidly. On Weibo, Instagram, and international fashion forums, she was praised not just for her beauty, but for her authenticity. In China, she was affectionately dubbed the nation's sweetheart, a title that reflected both admiration and a sense of personal connection. Yet through all of this, Liu Wen remained strikingly unchanged. She never chased the spotlight, she didn't manufacture a persona. She stayed polite, low-key, even a little mysterious. Like a superstar who never learned how to act like one, that humility, that refusal to become anything other than who she already was, only made her more magnetic. Liu Wen didn't just change the face of fashion, she did it without ever raising her voice. By the mid-2010s, Liu Wen was more than a model. She was a force reshaping the global fashion industry. With an elegance that felt both classic and contemporary, she stood at the intersection of high fashion and cultural significance. Her resume glittered with achievements that many models only dream of. She became a staple in Estée Lauder campaigns, the face of their global beauty vision, and brought an understated sophistication to Calvin Klein editorials. Major fashion houses like Chanel, La Perla, and H&M appointed her as a global ambassador, not only for her looks but for what she represented. A new, inclusive vision of beauty, Liu's international appeal was undeniable. She graced the covers of Vogue editions across the globe, China, Korea, Japan, Australia, Italy, each appearance adding another dimension to her evolving narrative. She wasn't just a familiar face, she was helping define the aesthetic and ideals of a new fashion era. Her presence was both aspirational and accessible. She carried the weight of breaking barriers, the first Chinese model to walk the Victoria's Secret runway, and the first to make repeated appearances at the prestigious Met Gala. And those Met Gala appearances weren't just symbolic. Each one was a masterclass in balance and transformation. One year, she'd arrive in a sharply tailored tuxedo that exuded confidence and control. Another year, she'd glide down the carpet in an ethereal, feathered couture gown, embodying grace and fantasy. She fused East and West in her fashion choices, not as a statement, but as an extension of herself. Nothing about her style ever felt forced or performative. She moved through these elite spaces with a calm self-assurance, always authentically herself. This quiet confidence earned her the respect of fashion's most influential names. Karl Lagerfeld, ever discerning, held her in high regard. Anna Wintour, known for her critical eye, appreciated the unique presence Liu brought to the industry. Brands trusted her because she didn't just wear their clothes, she elevated them. Fans followed her not because she chased virality or performed relatability, but because she embodied something real and enduring in a world that often celebrates the superficial. Liu once remarked, "I don't think being beautiful is about having a perfect face. It's about being confident in who you are." That sentiment echoed in everything she did. Her beauty wasn't loud, curated, or manufactured. It was lived in. It felt honest. Whether on the runway, on the red carpet, or off-duty, Liu exuded a calm, radiant self-awareness that transcended trends. She didn't just model clothes. She modeled what it meant to be comfortable in your own skin, and in doing so, she inspired a generation to rethink what beauty and representation could look like on the world stage. As Liu's fame grew, so did the pressure to be more than just a model. She became a symbol. Every outfit she wore, every quote she gave in interviews, every brand collaboration she signed onto was scrutinized and analyzed from all angles. The questions were constant and often conflicting. Was this look too Western, erasing her heritage? Was it too Eastern, reinforcing a sense of otherness? Was she playing it too safe, or was she pushing boundaries too far? No matter what she did, she couldn't please everyone, but pleasing everyone was never really the goal. Still, the pressure of public expectation was inescapable. More often than not, Liu was the only East Asian model on major international runways. In high fashion campaigns, she stood alone, frequently the only face of color among a sea of white models. With that visibility came responsibility, even if it was never explicitly asked of her. She bore the weight of an entire demographic's hopes and projections. A representative not just for herself, but for millions who rarely saw themselves reflected in luxury fashion. And sometimes that weight was crushing. There were moments of backlash. When she appeared in certain advertisements or wore specific styles that drew from traditional cultural motifs, public reactions varied. Some criticized her for playing into outdated tropes or perpetuating stereotypes. Others accused her of selling out, of compromising her identity for fame, of not using her platform to speak out more aggressively on social issues. The criticism was loud, but it was also fragmented and inconsistent, leaving her to navigate an impossible balance between personal expression, cultural sensitivity, and industry demands. Yet through it all, Liu never cracked. She didn't respond with dramatic statements or public outbursts. Instead, she kept walking the runway, kept arriving on set, kept showing up, smiling just slightly, not out of indifference, but out of resilience. It wasn't that she didn't care, she cared deeply, but she also understood the stakes. For her, representation wasn't just about being seen for a season. It was about staying, creating a presence so consistent that it became normal, that it opened doors for others, that it changed the standard. And Liu stayed. While others faded from the spotlight or burned out under the same pressure, she endured. Quietly, professionally, proudly. Her path wasn't marked by controversy or spectacle, but by a steady, unwavering presence that challenged an industry to reconsider what beauty looked like and who got to embody it. In staying, she carved out a space not just for herself, but for those who would follow. Despite being one of the most recognized and respected models in the world, Liu Wen remains something of an enigma. In an age dominated by social media transparency and constant self-promotion, she stands apart. Liu doesn't overshare, doesn't rant online, and certainly doesn't chase likes, retweets, or viral moments. Instead, she presents herself with poise and restraint, offering only glimpses of her private life. This deliberate distance isn't accidental. It has become a defining part of her brand. Her quiet, refined approach to fame has only made her more intriguing to fans in the fashion industry alike. While many influencers and public figures capitalize on constant visibility, Liu Wen has chosen another path. She is open about the things that matter most to her: family, cultural heritage, humility, and hard work. But she rarely lets cameras into her personal world. There are no reality show moments, no emotional live streams, no drama-filled confessions. And yet, this understated elegance has worked in her favor. In a world increasingly fueled by noise and spectacle, Liu is a ghost, graceful, composed, and always just out of reach. Her mystique only enhances her appeal. Over the years, Liu has been the subject of countless rumors, especially surrounding her personal life and relationships. But through it all, she has remained silent. When others found themselves caught in controversies, she kept her head down, steering clear of the chaos. Liu focused on what mattered most, showing up to work, delivering with professionalism, and setting the bar high for herself and others. Her discipline and consistency have not only helped her endure in an ever-changing industry, but have also elevated her to icon status. In 2020, like many in the fashion world, Liu Wen took a brief step back. The global pandemic brought runway shows to a halt and paused countless campaigns. For Liu, it was a moment to reflect and recharge. Her hiatus was not marked by any dramatic announcement. She simply receded in her characteristically quiet way. But when she returned to the scene, she did so with power and precision. She walked the runway for Prada, appeared on the covers of major magazines, and reaffirmed her position not just as a top model, but as a cultural figure. Liu Wen's journey in fashion is not just about beauty or style. It's about strength, authenticity, and longevity. She has shown that it's possible to thrive in the spotlight without losing oneself in it. Her story is a rare one in today's fast-paced, hyper-exposed world, a woman who lets her work speak louder than her words and who continues to lead by example, quietly, gracefully, and always a step ahead. Liu Wen was never part of a clique. No scandalous girl group, no rivalries or backstage drama. She walked alone, and that made her stronger. In an industry often fueled by noise, spectacle, and carefully curated alliances, Liu's quiet ascent was a kind of rebellion in itself. Her success wasn't built on controversy or competition. It was built on consistency, elegance, and an unshakable sense of self. She didn't need to belong to a scene to be seen. Her presence from the very beginning was magnetic. While others may have relied on social ties or headline-making antics, Liu Wen let her work speak for itself. She became the first Asian model to walk the Victoria's Secret runway, the first Chinese model to front major campaigns for Estée Lauder, and the first to break barriers across countless catwalks from New York to Paris. In doing so, she didn't just open doors. She built a whole new hallway. Liu Wen became a blueprint, not a carbon copy. For every Asian model that followed Fei Fei Sun, Sui He Hikong, Liu paved the road. Not with fanfare, but with footsteps, quietly, relentlessly, with grace. She dismantled stereotypes and reshaped Western beauty standards by simply existing in her truth, an elegant, grounded, and deeply professional presence that demanded recognition without asking for it. She once said, "I hope that in the future, Asian faces are not just a trend." And in many ways, she ensured that. Because she wasn't a trend, she was a foundation. She didn't chase the spotlight, she changed its direction. Through her, the world saw that Asian beauty was not monolithic, not a fleeting aesthetic moment, but a spectrum of identity and strength. Her presence redefined visibility not just for herself, but for generations of models who saw in her a mirror of possibility. What made Liu Wen exceptional wasn't just her look, but her philosophy. To walk alone, to carry history on your shoulders and never ask for pity or praise, that's Liu Wen. Not loud. Not loud. Just unforgettable. She's the kind of icon who redefines what it means to lead, not by dominating the conversation, but by shifting its course, not by demanding space, but by earning it with every step she took down the runway. Today, when you see an Asian model gracing the cover of Vogue or opening a major fashion show, remember who came before. Liu Wen walked so they could run, and she did it all alone, yes, but for the sake of many. Liu Wen didn't set out to be a pioneer, but that's exactly what she became. Her journey into the global spotlight was never about seeking fame for fame's sake. It wasn't about making loud, bold statements or shaking the foundations of an industry. It was about showing up again and again and doing her job with unparalleled grace and professionalism. By doing so, she quietly yet powerfully transformed the fashion landscape. In a world that often seems to favor the loudest voices and the most dramatic changes, Liu Wen's success is an example of how real, lasting impact can come from a quiet, steady commitment to excellence. Day after day, runway after runway, campaign after campaign, she showed the world what true Asian beauty looks like, not as an exception, not as something exotic, but as a standard. When Liu Wen first entered the fashion world, the industry was still dominated by a narrow, Eurocentric view of beauty. Models were largely white, tall and thin, with very few exceptions. Diversity, especially when it came to Asian representation, was not just scarce, it was almost non-existent. But Liu Wen, with her natural poise, striking features, and unshakable confidence, became an undeniable force. Her rise to prominence didn't happen overnight. It wasn't about a viral moment or an instant headline. Rather, it was the culmination of years of perseverance and dedication. Liu Wen wasn't content with simply getting by or being a one-hit wonder. She earned her place, proving herself on every runway, in every campaign, and in every magazine spread she appeared in. But more than that, she expanded the very idea of what it meant to be beautiful. On one of the most significant milestones in her career came in 2009, when Liu Wen became the first Chinese model to walk the Victoria's Secret fashion show. The event, which at the time was one of the most widely televised and talked about fashion spectacles in the world, was long considered an exclusive platform reserved for a select few models, many of whom were Western. The fact that Liu Wen was able to make history at this event was not just a triumph for her personally, but for Asian representation in the fashion industry as a whole. Her presence on that runway was a quiet but powerful statement that beauty transcends borders. In 2010, Liu Wen made another groundbreaking move by becoming the first Chinese model to become a global ambassador for Estée Lauder. In doing so, she broke down another wall, showing the world that Asian faces could and should be celebrated in high-end beauty campaigns. This was especially significant at a time when the beauty industry's messaging was still often rooted in Western ideals of femininity and glamour. Liu Wen's campaign with Estée Lauder not only changed the face of beauty advertising, but also set a new precedent for Asian models to be considered as equals in the global beauty industry. These milestones were game changers, but they weren't the end of her journey. Liu Wen's impact continued to grow, not just because of her groundbreaking moments, but because of her consistent and effortless ability to transform any space she entered. Whether she was walking for the biggest designers in the world, posing for magazine covers, or attending high-profile events like the Met Gala, Liu Wen's presence radiated a quiet elegance. She didn't scream for attention, she earned it, and that's one of the things that made her such a standout in a highly competitive and often fleeting industry. Liu Wen's Met Gala appearances were a perfect example of this. In a sea of extravagant gowns and opulent designs, she stood out not by being over the top, but by embodying grace, sophistication, and timeless beauty. Her looks always felt effortless, as though she had been born to wear them. Whether in a sleek modern gown or a classic couture design, Liu Wen consistently embodied the idea that true beauty isn't about conforming to a specific trend or standard. It's about owning your individuality and celebrating it with confidence. Beyond her achievements on the runway and in front of the camera, Liu Wen's influence extended into a broader cultural conversation about representation. Her very presence at top-tier shows and campaigns showed young people around the world that their beauty, no matter their background, was valuable. For many, Liu Wen became a symbol of possibility. She showed young Asian women, and people of all backgrounds, that there is no one type of beauty, and that they too belong in the rooms where the most important decisions are being made. What sets Liu Wen apart from many of her peers is her ability to balance fame with humility. She didn't just capitalize on her success, she used it as a platform to elevate others. Whether through her social media presence or her work behind the scenes, Liu Wen has consistently used her position to advocate for change in the industry and to support the next generation of talent. She didn't just break down barriers for herself, she ensured that the doors she walked through remained open for others. And that is perhaps her greatest legacy, not that she was the first, but that she made sure she wouldn't be the last. In a way, Liu Wen's work was about laying the groundwork for a more inclusive, diverse future in fashion. By becoming a global ambassador for major beauty brands and walking in the most prestigious fashion shows, she demonstrated that Asian beauty is not a passing trend, but a force to be reckoned with. So when you see Liu Wen's name in the headlines, remember, it's not just about the accolades or the milestones. It's about the quiet revolution she sparked. It's about the lasting impact she's had on an industry that, for too long, was limited by narrow standards. Yasmin Liu Wen didn't just open doors for herself. She held them open for countless others. And in doing so, she reshaped the landscape of fashion and beauty forever. What's your favorite Liu Wen moment? Was it her iconic walk on the Victoria's Secret runway? Her history-making debut as an Estée Lauder global ambassador? or perhaps her effortless elegance at the Met Gala. Whatever it may be, one thing is clear. Liu Wen's journey is one of grace, determination, and transformation. Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's continue to celebrate this trailblazer's extraordinary impact on the world of fashion. If Liu Wen's story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more untold fashion stories. There's so much more to explore and many more heroes to recognize.